gamers? Today on Dice and Dragons, Julie's back because we are actually we're reviewing one of her Valentine's Day presents. So today we're going to be reviewing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a game designed by Thomas M. Grofton. It was also produced by Lynn Vander Studios and licensed from 20th Century Fox, and the game was published by Jasco Games. Been looking forward to getting this one on the table. Julie, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the game itself?
Well, you got me this game because it's a cooperative game that we can play together. It's about 40 to 60 minutes for ages 14 and above, 1 to 6 players.
Yep, so it should be fun. We're not actually going to be fighting against each other despite the heroes and the villains, but you know there are heroes and there are villains in the game, so that makes these shirts appropriate. So grab your drink, and I'm going to crack this one. And that's my best friend. I'm grabbing my best friend. And let's take it to the table. So, who you being?
Buffy.
Buffy. Who should I be?
Angel.
Angel?
You're no angel, but you can be Angel.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Now we're going to take a look at the components you get in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the board game. Now we have our board, which is the city of Sunnydale, and includes some of your favorite places from the show, such as City Hall. You know, that's where the mayor was. He was a big pain in their butts. The Summers residence, of course, Sunnydale High, the Magic Box, and of course in later seasons as well, we have UC Sunnydale. As you can see right here, we have our 6 characters. Now you have 5 Scoobies, essentially. Well, Angel isn't really a Scooby, but he was an honorary member of the Scooby Squad, as well as Spike, who joins the team in later seasons. As you can see, each of the heroes has one of their standees. Now there are some special heroes that you can get for the game. I don't know if they're still available. I know Cordelia and a different version of Xander were some convention exclusives at GenreCon. You have the tokens for your actions and your special abilities. Now we'll take a closer look at the heroes in just a little bit and really explain what those actions are and the special abilities. We have our 6 different villains and 5 standees. As the first evil is a little bit more nebulous, you don't actually get a standee for him, but he does have a big effect when he hits the game board. We have our monster of the week, which refers to different monsters that were seen in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We have our first player token as well. You have the event cards, which do different things. Just take a little quick look at them there. We also have our evil card. Now, we have seen many of the heroes turn evil during the course of the show. We, of course, have our villain tokens, which include the vampires. And what would a Buffy the Vampire Slayer game be without some demons as well? Some of the best characters in the game were actually demons. Then we also have the Townie/Wound token. So what you can see here, they're townies, but when you flip them over, they also represent wounds. Now these will go on what's known as the Apocalypse track, and when that track gets filled up, that's how you lose the game. Now we'll go over that in more detail as we review how to play the game. We also have our clue tokens. Now these tokens become available and they're placed on the game board after you defeat a monster of the week. So during the game, you're going to defeat 3 monsters of the week, reveal 3 of the big bad plots, and then you're going to fight the big bad. And that's the way the game works. We also have our big bad cards here. Now I'm jumping over the items because we talked about the big bad. So as you can see, each big bad has a few different plot cards. There's a total of 6 plot cards per big bad. Now the reason for that is to add some variety, so you're not always trying to beat the master in the same fashion. And then we have the item cards. Now when you look at the item cards, a lot of them can potentially be the same. Like as you can see right here, there's a lot of wooden stakes. We do have garlic. There are weapons. There's holy water. And there's also the tomes, which can be very good as well. The cross. And then finally, the magic supplies. Now we'll take a quick look at those after we've finished reviewing the components. But at the same time, we take a quick look at the heroes. And then there are the artifacts, which are far different. Now the artifacts are some really great items that you can get because the game limits you to the amount of cards you can have in your turn. Enough cards you can have in your hand at a time. It's difficult to have a lot of artifacts. They're very thematic. There is the Slayer Axe that worked very well with Buffy, and there are some other tokens that were, not tokens, other artifacts that work very well with specific heroes. And not to forget the very well-made rulebook, which is very simple, straightforward. It really explains how you get into the game. There are a section in the rules for two-player variants, and also some suggestions as how to modify the game if you are finding it too difficult. It is a cooperative game, therefore it is challenging when it comes to some of the strategies you see on the board. Now we'll cut right here, and we're going to take a closer look at our heroes in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the board game. We'll be right back. Now we're going to take a closer look at our 6 heroes, the Scoobies, and their vampire with a soul allies. So each of the heroes starts with a different item. Now we will go over what those items can do after we take a look at the heroes, but they're very thematic to the hero. For example, Giles gets a tome, Buffy starts with a stake, Xander has some holy water. Now each character can perform these 4 basic actions, which are search, move, use, and fight. And they can do that spending any one of the 4 action tokens that they have. Their special action token, as you can see right here on Xander, is the only one that may be used for their special ability. It doesn't have to be used for the special ability. You can use the special ability action for the regular action or your special ability action. Now, as you can see right here, we also have the Becoming Evil card. Now, if you do happen to turn evil, which is very thematic, you will make an event check, which we'll cover in the how to play. And when you make the check, depending on what is drawn, you will perform any one of these 3 actions, and then you will discard your card as your character has shaken off what's affected them and they are back to being on the side of good. Now let's take a look at what makes the characters different, their special abilities. So for example, Giles can always have an extra card. His special ability means he can draw 4 items and keep 2. And he will discard the other 2. Buffy may make a move and a fight action. After she makes her fight action, she will then, and it's in any order, she will then stun all baddies in her location. This special works great with the Slayer Thighs, as she is able to potentially even get some extra kills in there. With regards to Xander, he can choose another character at that location, and you and the other character may perform a basic action without spending one of your action tokens, which is fantastic because you essentially get a extra turn. With regards to Angel, he is able to draw 3 artifact cards, keep 1 artifact, and then put the other ones back in any order. You can put them either at the top or the bottom of the deck. Willow has a great special ability as well. She can discard any number of magic supplies, and for each one she discards, she will be able to slay 1 baddie. Or with a fight action, if she has a magic supply card, she can also slay 1 baddie, meaning she doesn't need a stake or necessarily the weapons in order to slay a demon. And the great thing about that special that I didn't mention is when she discards the magic supplies, it's actually 1 baddie anywhere, which is very powerful. With regards to Spike, his special ability, which is one I think is quite crucial, he is able to slay all baddies in a single location. And for every 3 baddies slain, you do take a wound, but you do have the Summer's Residence, meaning you are able to heal the wounds that are dealt out by Spike. And now, as you're playing the characters, whenever you take an action, you will flip over one of the corresponding tokens. So when you take a regular action, you will flip over one of the regular action cards. Now, when you do perform a special action or decide to use your special action for a regular ability, you will flip over your special action token. And whenever you do that, you will be drawing an event card. And that is how you have more monsters come out and you have different events and things happen in the city of Sunnydale. So spend your special abilities wisely, and depending on how you spend them, it can really affect the game. If you save them till later on, while it might make things more difficult, you might actually want to spend them a little earlier on in the turn. So we've taken a closer look at the characters. The ones that I say are quite essential to the game because I really like them. Buffy, last game that we played, Spike, was quite crucial. And I think we would have actually liked to have Willow, the ability to spend some magical supplies to slay baddies, as well as potentially discarding the slay baddies anywhere, can be quite useful. I do like Angel as well, but they're all really good. I just found that with regards to killing large group of enemies, which might be quite crucial depending on the number of players you have and the way the event cards come out, I almost say that Spike is a must-have in the game. Now that we've taken a closer look at the heroes, let's take a look at some of the items and weapons that they can use. Now let's quickly take a closer look at the 7 basic items that you can get and some of the artifacts. And just a warning on the artifacts, not all of them are good. So we have the tomes. Now you'll be required to spend these items when you are fighting the big bad to get rid of some of his plots, and when you do that you have to discard them. Same thing with the monsters of the week. Now what these items do normally is they give you a different option for one of your basic actions. So the tome will change what search does. So instead of drawing 2 items, you can search to stun 1 demon in any location on the board, which can be very good. Essentially, you're reading the tome, casting a spell. That's the way I look at it. You can also discard the tome during your turn, so get rid of it, which is something you may want to do as you're going to be trying to acquire specific items in the game to gain an artifact. Now, the wooden stake, what it does is that it changes your fight action, lets you dust 1 vampire. You can also discard it during your turn to slay any vampire without using an action that's in your location. That is very good. The cross will also change your fight action. It'll let you move a vampire to another location. Now, you may be wondering why you would want to move a vampire. We'll explain that a little bit more in the how to play. You can also discard it to move 1 vampire in any location, which can be very useful as well. Now there is the garlic, and the garlic is a little peculiar as it's the only thing that you just discard. Now when you discard garlic, what you're actually going to do is you're going to place the garlic token at a certain location at the game board, and what that does is it protects the location. It keeps baddies from moving into that location. Now, it won't affect baddies that are already in that location, so you might want to just be more strategic as to where you put it, but it's like essentially a roadblock that you're putting up. We have weapons which change your fight. It's very similar to the stake. In this case, you fight to slay 1 demon, and the discard effect would be to slay 1 demon in your location without spending an action. The magic supplies will modify your search, and you can search to remove 1 wound token from the apocalypse track, and that'll make a little bit more sense once we actually go into the how to play. And then finally, with regards to basic items, there is the holy water, and the holy water can be used to stun 1 vampire in any location when you use the fight on the holy water. Then you may discard it, and you may discard the card to stun 1 vampire in any location without spending 1 of your actions. Now we'll take a closer look at some of the artifacts. So for example, the Holy Bible. Now the Holy Bible reduces the amount of holy water that is required to defeat either one of the big bad's plots or a monster of the week. So if a monster of the week would take, let's say, a holy water and a magic supplies, if someone has the Holy Bible, then you would only need the magic supplies. Now the blessed sword is very cool. So you can fight to slay up to 2 demons in your location. And then if you're wounded by a demon, you may do an event check, and then depending on the result, you may wound them, but you do have to place your wound on the apocalypse track. So that's just an example of what you can do with the blessed sword. There's the amulet, which is fairly similar to Spike's special ability. You perform an event check, and if you succeed, you discard this artifact and place a wound on the apocalypse track, and you actually slay all baddies in your location. So essentially, it is a one-shot special that very much is Spike's ability. I forgot the fact that you do have to place 1 wound on the apocalypse track. Now we have the box of Gavrik, and this is the example of a bad artifact. Whenever this is drawn, you have to place it next to the game board immediately, and you spawn one demon at City Hall. You have to go there and conduct the use action to get rid of it, as this will constantly cause you an issue of spawning a demon at City Hall. Sorry, I just want to be clear. When you spawn the demon at City Hall, it is at the end of the round. So you spawned one demon at City Hall at the end of the round. And then another example of a bad artifact is the Gem of Amara, is that when this card is drawn, you cannot kill any vampires placed on the game board until the end of the turn. But that can be very bad, as you cannot slay any of the baddies. Now you can stun them, which is not too bad, that you can at least stop them from moving, but it can really affect your plans. Now we've taken a look at the items. Let's take a closer look at the villains of the game. Now let's take a closer look at the villains in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now I don't want to spend too much time on the villains. I want you guys to get a chance to experience them for yourself. But I just want to clarify a few things regarding the villains. And for that, we're going to start with the monsters of the week. So there will only ever be one monster of the week on the board at a time, denoted by this monster of the week token. And when you defeat a monster of the week, so for example, if you defeat Rack, you would then place a clue token on the location where you have defeated Rack. Now, I do want to just talk to you about the monster of the week. So what happens is there is an effect that occurs in town when there's a monster of the week on the board. So when using magic supplies to remove one rune, discard the magic supplies. So in a sense, he changes the way magic supplies work until he is defeated. And the character does not move during monster activation, and the character that actually slays him becomes evil for a turn, which is not good, but very thematic with what happened in the show. The item requirements to defeat him are magic supplies and weapons. You would then do an event check, and you would need either the All-Seeing Eye or an Ankh to defeat him. So an event check, you do that by checking an event card, and you need to have the matching symbol at this part of the card. As you see, it's a pentagram. In this case, we would not have defeated Rack, which means the two items would be discarded and somebody else would try. We'll take a look at another one of the monsters of the week. We have Ethan Rain. He appears at the crypt, and at the start of monster activation, you replace Ethan Rain with Aegon as the monster of the week. You discard this card and search the monster of the week's deck, and or discard pile for Aegon and add him to the game, and then you would discard this guy as the monster of the week. To beat him, you need magic supplies and a tome. You would need to have the Ankh or the pentagram. So if we were fighting Ethan Rain before he becomes Aegon, we would have to use these, otherwise we'd have to draw the other monster. So as you can see, there's different effects from the monsters of the week, and this one puts potentially a difficult monster of the week back into the game. Now let's take a closer look at your big bads. Let's start with the master, because he's the first one in the series. So at the end of each round, and all villains have an at the end of each round ability, you would spawn a vampire would look at any location that has a clue. When the master reveals himself, you place him at the Hellmouth, and then you would check for the pentagram symbol, and for every 2 vampires on the game board, for each success, add 1 townie to the Apocalypse track, which is very bad, as townies cannot come off the Apocalypse track. We'll talk a little bit more about losing the game when we get to the how to play. Let's take a look at Glorificus with regards to her. At the start of each round, at the end of each round, you kill 1 townie at each location containing a clue token. That's not good, as we can't heal townies. And then she has her entering the world ability. Oh, and before I forget, you see these special things that are here? Each of the villains have them. Whenever you resolve an event after a villain is on the game board, so after they've been revealed, depending on what is at the bottom of the event card. So let's just take a look quickly here. So once again, it's the pentagram. So if we get the pentagram and Glory was the villain, all characters in Glorificus's location flip 1 action token face down. So sorry about that. Everyone would lose one of their actions at the start of the next turn. That's real bad. So you can see how the different villains essentially affect the game differently. You've got 6 of them. Each of them has their plot cards. We'll take a look at one plot card here. So as you can see, for Glorificus, one of our plots is add 1 wound to the Apocalypse track each time you fight a monster of the league or Glorificus. So that's really bad, especially to get out early on in the game. To defeat this plot, you do need magic supplies and a cross, and then you need to successfully get the pentagram or the Ankh. It's important to note that you cannot defeat the big bad's plot before the big bad has revealed himself on the board. So depending on the plots that you get, the game can be very difficult, moderately more difficult. It really depends on the big bad you're fighting and what sequence their 6 plot cards come out. And now note, you will only see 3 of them. You're only going to have to defeat the 3 different plots to defeat the big bad, because you will only ever go through 3 monsters of the week, as there are only 3 of the clue tokens. Now that we've covered the villains, we've shown you a little bit more about the event checks. I will actually clarify it in the how to play, which is where we're going right now. Now I've just started setting up the game for 2 players. As you can see, we got Buffy and Angel. And you really want to start the game with Buffy and Angel. In my opinion, they were like the 2 main characters of the first 2 seasons, and it just seems right. And for our starting villain, we've got the Master, as he was the first villain in the show. The game does recommend that you start facing off against him. Now, it also does say for your first game, you can add an extra artifact for Buffy, the Slayer Axe, which is a pretty cool artifact, but as I've already played the game and I'm just trying to show you guys a standard setup, we're not going to do that. Now, because we've got 2 players, we need to draw 2 event cards to really set the stage as to what's going to be going on in the city of Sunnydale. And when you're doing your setup, you draw a number of event cards equal to the number of players. So 2 for 2 players, 3 for 3, so on and so forth, up to 6 players. So let's draw our first event card and see what's going on in the city. So with the first event card, we've got a vampire at the Summers residence. And then we have a townie that's in need of help at the Glorificus's mansion. That means they are potentially in trouble. We will then take the card and discard it. You may also see that there is some text at the bottom of the card. So when you are normally playing the game and drawing event cards, you will go through the top text, the middle text, and the bottom text. For the purpose of the setup phase, you only use the top 2 parts of the card. So for the second card, we'll take a look. We've got a vampire at Sunnydale High. Just hate when they mess with our school. And a townie at Sunnydale Cemetery. And that is how we get the situation set up in Sunnydale, except for one last thing. We need to draw the monster of the week. So in this case, we've got Ethan Rain. Now, Ethan Rain appears at the crypt. So I'm just going to put this card, I'll put it where you guys can see it right near Angel. I mean, he does turn bad, so baddies can hang out near him. You take the monster of the week token, and then you will place it on the board. Now, nothing's going to happen with the monster of the week unless you try to defeat him or during the baddie phase. And that's all you need to do to set up Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So we'll take you through a full turn as the heroes. We'll take you through the baddie phase, and then we'll show you exactly how you can defeat the monster of the week, and as well as the big bad's plots. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. As you'll notice, I just cleaned this up over here. I really wanted to just have a little bit more space, and I took back the first player token because I just wanted to show you guys me assigning it. So I'm assigning it to Buffy for the purposes of this playthrough. Buffy's going to start as the first player, and her starting action is pretty clear. She has a wooden stake. She's starting in the same location as a vampire. The vampire can potentially threaten a townie. We're going to use our basic action to dust the vampire. And for her, it's as easy as that. And then it will go to Angel's turn. Now, there's a couple different things that we can do as Angel. And because I want to show you guys just the way things work, and it can also be very useful for strategy, you might want to use your special action earlier on. And as we don't have a lot of items, I want to see what we can get. So I'm going to use Angel's special, which is to draw 3 artifacts. Now we get face knife, we get the Dulac Cross. And then we get the Darkest Magic. Now, I'm able to keep any one of these items and then put them back on the deck in any order. Now, after looking at them, taking a look at the Monster of the Week, if we get the Dulac Cross, the Monster of the Week requires one less tome to defeat. And you can see that right here. Just give you guys a little bit more of a close-up. And then we also have Faith's Knife, which means each time you perform a search or move action, you may after you resolve the action, you may check, and we'll go through what the check is. Then if you pass the check, you may successfully slay one baddie. These are all really good cards, but as I want to try to defeat the Monster of the Week earlier on, I'm going to take the Dulac Cross, and that's one of the 4 items that Angel can have as we are doing the 2-player playthrough, and that'll be his turn. And as we use the special action, what do we have to do? We need to draw an event card. So when we draw an event card, we take a look and see what happens. So this means a vampire lurks at the bronze, and a townie needs help at City Hall. So we will add a vampire to the bronze, and another townie is now at City Hall. It is now Buffy's turn, and we want to try to be able to defeat this Monster of the Week, and we need some magic supplies. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a chance, and we're actually going to move to the crypt. Now, it may or may not work, but the only way to potentially engage and defeat this baddie in the turn is to take a little bit of risk. And it will now be Angel's turn. What Angel will do, he would like to get something to beat some vampires. He's going to perform a search action. We're going to draw 2 item cards. He gets a wooden stake, and he gets another wooden stake. So we will add those 2 wooden stakes to his nice pile of items. It is now once again Buffy's turn, and what we really want is some magic supplies because of the Dulac Cross. So let's see what we get here. So let's draw 2 cards. And we unfortunately don't get exactly what we're looking for. And that is her last regular action. So we're not going to be able to defeat the Monster of the Week during this turn. What Angel is going to do, because he's got 2 wooden stakes, as you can see right here, he's going to use his cross to make a vampire move 1 location. We will then discard a wooden stake to automatically defeat the vampire. And that will be Angel's 3rd turn. Now, as we cannot defeat the Monster of the Week, what would be the next best thing for Buffy to do? Well, we've got a vampire here that's threatening some townies. We also want to potentially save some townies, which I'll go over in a minute. So let's go ahead and use Buffy's special ability where she can do a move and then a fight action. So she's now moved. We can use a wooden stake for fighting. We will dust the vampire, protecting, all of the townies. And that is now the end of Buffy's activations. There's nothing more that she can do this turn. Angel will use his last action to move to the location of a townie, move to the one in City Hall, and that townie in City Hall will now be saved. And that is how you're going to conduct your player's turn. We're going to cut right now just to keep these clips a little bit shorter, and we'll go through the baddie activation. Stay tuned. Now, before we get to the baddie activation, I just got to jump back slightly because Buffy used her special action and we did not pull an event card. Hopefully it won't affect Angel having interacted with the townie, but let's see what that event card gives us. So the first thing we get is a vampire lurking at the magic box. Phew, he's not at City Hall. And a townie needs help at Shadow Valley Vineyards. And the next thing is you would move 1 vampire towards the nearest townie. So we will put the vampire at the magic box. We'll have the townie at Shadow Valley Vineyards. And as the vampire is now supposed to move towards the nearest townie, as you can see right here, this vampire, because it's the only one currently on the board, will move to, we'll say, Restfield Cemetery. And that is where the baddies have moved. We are now ready for the baddie activation phase. Now what you're going to do is you're always going to check your big bad. So we're going to take a look at the master. So at the end of each round, a vampire lurks in a clue location. As we have not defeated any of the monsters of the week, there are no clues on the board. We don't have to worry about when the master reveals himself. You would do that check later on. And then once the master is on the board, this part actually becomes important because whenever an event check happens, when these symbols show up, you're going to have to perform the action. So, very straightforward. Now we're going to take a look at what's going to happen next, whereas the monster of the week is going to activate. So Ethan Rain, and this is a very particular monster. So this one, at the start of the monster activation, replace Ethan Rain with Aegon as the monster of the week. Discard this card, and you draw him. So Ethan Rain, he's no longer the monster of the week. We discard the card. We go through the deck. And we now draw Aegon. So Aegon shall appear, because I'm going to follow the card. It's not really clear what we're supposed to do in this case. It doesn't say whether you remain at the crypt, but I'm going to say that Ethan went to the crypt and summoned Aegon. Seems more in line with the show. And Aegon appears at Sunnydale High, and then the baddies need to then move. So what are they then going to do? They're going to move towards our heroes or the nearest townie. They're going to move basically at the target that's closest. Now, if a hero is defending a townie, so let's just say, for example, when townie was here, they would absolutely move to that location. If there's a townie here and the hero's here, they're always going to move to potentially engage the characters. That's what's said in the rule book. And then the other thing I just want to explain is how damage is dealt. So let's just, for the example, imagine that the vampire actually had reached Shadow Valley Vineyards. It's now the baddie activation. Oops, he has now killed the townie, which is bad. We have a townie on the Apocalypse track. There's no way to get rid of them. Now you are able to heal in this game. You can use the ability at the Summers residence to get rid of wounds. Now, how things could be different, how we may have gotten a wound in this case would be if Angel had been defending this townie, so the vampire activates, moves, then they would go and deal their damage, and then we would take a wound, which is then added to the Apocalypse track. And as I said before, once we get to 13, the game is over. Now, we'll put everyone back in their current positions, and let's go through the baddie activation. So Aegon shows up. We have him right here. He's at Sunnydale High. And one thing that we'll have to take a look at is if Aegon shares a location with a character, that character becomes evil. This will be interesting. You guys are actually going to get to see in evil action. So we're going to activate the baddies. The baddies move. Aegon goes to the bronze. Vampire goes to Shadow Valley Vineyards. They then get their attack. The vampire will slay the townie. And then Buffy will take one wound because she's in the same place as Aegon. And then she shall become evil. So what happens when you become evil? Well, we're going to reset our characters right now. Angel will now become the first player. Buffy is evil. And we'll get back with a second turn. And hopefully we'll be able to show you guys how we defeat the monster of the week. So stay tuned. All right, we're now on our second turn. Angel's our first player. So what is Angel going to do? Well, we could really use some weapons to defeat Aegon. And we can definitely acquire weapons. We can acquire them at the initiative base. Now we can take the chance to just draw some artifacts, see what we get. But I really want to defeat the monster of the week. So we will flip over our action card and move to the initiative base. Now what's going to happen right now is that Buffy is going to lose part of her turn to do something evil. So We take this card, and next time you perform an action, we must do an event check and do one of the evil actions. So it depends on what shows up. So if we get the Ankh, the All-Seeing Eye, or a Pentagram, we would perform one evil action. We'll make the event check. We get the All-Seeing Eye. That means we activate one baddie. Now, as we're activating a baddie, it doesn't say activate Monster of the Week. We will activate the vampire who's going to move a step closer to our hero, as our hero Angel is much closer. He's also trying to get the weapons to beat the baddie, so I feel that's a little bit more thematic. And that is Buffy's action. Oof, we just kind of wasted an action. Now what are we going to do? We are going to use Angel's use action to use the ability of the space, and we'll draw 2 weapons. Now you can shuffle your items back into the deck, but as there are so many similar ones, I don't like to do it every turn, but the game does suggest you do it every turn. We're going to draw the 2 weapons, and as I now have 5 items with Angel, I'm discarding the cross. So we'll just put the cross into the discard pile. Angel's got 2 weapons, and that will be his second action. Now, Buffy's kind of woken up from her haze, and she's kind of pissed off. She's got to do something about these vampires and people. So she's going to move to the location of the vampire. She's got the wooden stake to defeat him. And actually, you know what? I'm going to change my mind here as we want to move and fight. We will use a special action, draw an event card. Let's get that done early, see what happens. So we now have a demon at the Angelus Mansion, a vampire at Westfield Cemetery. So we'll take that out first, and then we will see what the effect is. So we got demons at Angelus Mansion, the vampires at Westfield Cemetery. And then what we do is we place this card beside the game board until the end of this round. City Hall cannot be activated this round. So I'm just going to put the card on City Hall. I like doing that a little bit more, meaning that we cannot activate City Hall, but you can place it basically wherever you want. So we moved, we use our fight action, we've got the wooden stake. The vampire is dead. It is now Angel's turn. Remember how I said you can use a special action for anything? As we're trying to check to defeat Aegon, I'm going to use my special action. We are going to then move to engage Aegon. And I'm just using it for a move. I'm not drawing any artifacts. We still have to draw an event card. So what happens here is we get a demon at Shadow Valley Vineyards, and a townie is at the Magic Box. All right. And then what it says, if there's currently at least one baddie sharing location with a character, add 1 wound token to the Apocalypse track. As Angel's in the same locations you can see here as Aegon, we need to add a wound to the Apocalypse track. And we're now getting towards the end of our second turn. Let's see what Buffy's going to do. We've got weapons. We've got wooden stakes. We also need to potentially protect a townie, because losing townies is pretty bad in this game. So we're going to go ahead and move to defend the townie. Fortunately, there's not much else we can do that's going to be very good. And now it is Angel's turn, and we want to defeat the monster of the week. We need to perform an event check and potentially get either a pentagram or the all-seeing eye. And to do that, we need to discard 2 weapons, which we have right here. So let's discard those 2 weapons and see if our 50-50 chance is going to help us defeat the monster of the week. Oof, we have drawn an Ankh. We will not defeat the monster of the week. So in this case, we've discarded our weapons. We did not defeat the monster of the week, and we're going to have to wait another turn to do that. So for the purposes of continuing on with the video and just showing you guys some other aspects, we'll draw a second event card for fun and just see if we actually beat it. You know, it's another Ankh, so forget that. I'm going to go through the deck, and I'm going to pretend that we drew the all-seeing eye. So let's say we draw the all-seeing eye. We would then flip over our last action token. Aegon would have been defeated, and we now have a clue token on the board. We would then draw a new monster of the week, which would be the Grimslaw demon that would appear at UC Sunnydale. We'll get him back out next to the board. We're not really going to focus too much on him because I want to continue with sort of some of the other aspects. And now it's going to be Buffy's turn. And right now there's not that much great things she can do because she's defending a townie. We're going to potentially take a lot of damage, but maybe there's something we can do to help ourselves. So let's try searching. So she'll spend her last move searching. We'll draw 2 cards. So she gets Garlic and Tomes. Now we're not going to keep the Tomes, but we are going to use the Garlic, and that's fantastic. So I don't have any of the Garlic tokens in front of me, but I'll get one of those out in just a second, and we're going to discard the Garlic. We're going to place the Garlic token at the magic box. We're going to go through the next baddie activation, and then show you what's going to happen with the clue tokens and talk a little bit more about how you'd have to beat the big bad. So stay tuned, and we're coming right back. It's now the baddie's turn. We're going to take this event card, get it off the board. We have the Garlic token, as you can see right now, in the location of the magic box, and we're going to go through the baddie activation. We start with the big bad, and as you can see right here, there's a clue token on the board, which means we will now spawn a vampire because of the master. So that's not very good for Angel. You've got the Grimslaw Demon. What happens is during monster activation, instead of following normal monster activation rules, the Grimslaw Demon will move directly to the closest townie's location, then kill one townie at that location. Well, this is a really cool thing that's actually happening right now because the monster of the week goes first, but we've got Garlic, which means whenever a baddie tries to enter that location, they cannot, and we discard the token. So the Garlic has just saved the townie's life. However, demons will move 2 towards the nearest townie or the nearest hero. So this time, we have our demon from the Shadow Valley Vineyards move 2, 1, 2. Same spot as Buffy. The vampire is going to go there. And because, things just got to get worse, we get the vampire that goes there as well. Now, this vampire is not going to move because there's a hero in the location. What does that mean? Well, we got to add a whole bunch of wounds to the Apocalypse track. Now, I didn't take out a lot of extra wounds, didn't think this was going to happen, but I would have to add up a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 wounds. I've only added 1. I'm going to add those other wounds. We're going to reset the characters right now. And when we come back, you'll see those other 4 wounds on the Apocalypse track, and we're going to explain what happens with regards to the clue tokens, the Big Bad's plot, and how you would actually have to defeat the Big Bad's plot, and a little bit more about the Big Bad itself, all right? So we'll be right back in a few seconds. Stay tuned. Now you've added the wounds tokens to the track, and we're going to jump just sort of a little bit ahead of what I would normally do instead of just taking a lot of actions. I want to reveal the Master's plot card because that's really what we want to talk about right now is what would happen. So we'll flip. It's now Buffy's turn. And actually, we'll go through Buffy's turn first. Like, you know what? There's some vampires here, demons. And what do we got? So we will actually use a weapon because weapons are used to defeat demons. Buffy will defeat a demon. We will discard a wooden stake. We got enough of those for right now. And we'll get rid of the vampire with our first action. We don't want to have too many baddies on the board. It is now Angel's turn. And instead of dusting the vampire, I want to show you guys the plot. So we are going to pick up the clue token. And we will then reveal one of the Master's plot cards. So what this plot is that anytime a townie is killed in a location containing at least one vampire, spawn one vampire in this location. So what you then do is you place this plot on the board. And what's going to happen is we have to defeat 3 monsters of the week. We defeated one, got 1 clue token, until there are a total of 3 plot cards. And I know I'm covering stuff up, but this is just so you guys can see 3 different plot cards on the board. At that point in time, you will spawn the Master, the Big Bad. You perform the action that's on the board, and then you're able to defeat his 3 plots in the same manner that you would defeat the monsters of the week. It's important to note you cannot defeat the plots until the big bad is on the board. So these are ongoing things that make the game more difficult, meaning you really want to try to get through all of the baddies. You want to really work cooperatively, mitigate the damage, mitigate the wounds. As you can see, we're in a little bit of a tight spot here. Things aren't looking too great for our heroes. But this does give me an opportunity to take you through a little bit more gameplay to show how you can deal with some of this stuff. So we've had Buffy do her first turn. It's now Angel just went through her turn, and we're now back to Buffy. And we got to get some healing out there. We got some baddies. I'm going to actually discard the weapons, get rid of this demon, save this silly townie, and we're going to move to the Summers residence. That's my turn. Angel's going to discard his wooden stake. And he's also going to move to the Summers residence. And we're now able to use the location ability, something that we haven't done very much so far in the first 2 turns, but it's something that can be very important. We're going to use the location ability. And I just flipped both of them over because they're both going to do it. And so first off, Buffy will heal 4 wounds. And then Angel will, not 4 wounds, 2 wounds. Now Angel will heal another 2 wounds. So we've healed a total of 4 wounds from the Apocalypse track. Now don't forget you cannot heal townies. And we'll just wrap up this turn. Buffy's going to do her special. She's going to move and fight. We'll get rid of this vampire. I really don't like this guy. So we do that with our special. Draw the event card. Event card is a vampire at Sunnydale Cemetery. A townie needs help at Sunnydale High. And then we place this card beside the game board until the end of this round. Characters may only move up to 2 spaces away this round. Well, it's a good thing that we are not very far along. And if you want to ignore that rule with this effect, a player may discard 1 magic supplies to do that. So we're at the end of the turn. This card really is not that annoying. So not too bad overall. Let's get that vampire at Sunnydale Cemetery. Whew, that's not good. Then we have a townie that needs help at Sunnydale High. And then we had some good stuff out there for earlier on. So Angel's actually going to pull some artifacts. We got some big bads. We got some plots. Let's see what we got. We've got, once again, Face Knife. We've got the Darkest Magic. I didn't put them at the top. Then we also have the Doll's Eye Crystal. Well, the Doll's Eye Crystal will weaken the amount of magic supplies needed to beat a monster of the week. I really like Face Knife. It lets us do a couple of more interesting things and defeat some baddies. So we will add that as our Angel's last thing. And don't forget, finally, the event. We have a vampire at the Summers residence and a townie needs help at Glorificus Mansion. And then we have to move at least 1 vampire towards a townie. And that's really not good for us. The vampire is going to move towards Glorificus Mansion where he can kill 2 townies. So we're in a little bit tight here. I'm going to show you guys the baddie activation just so we get a little bit more flavor as to what's going on. We'll move this. So what happens now? It's the baddie's turn. The Grimslaw Demon moves here. It's going to then slay the townie. Normally you just move all the baddies at once, but I'm just doing that because baddies are already in pretty good spots. The vampire is then going to slay this other townie. We're going to have these 2 townies slayed by the vampire that's there. Oof. We're at 7 already on the Apocalypse track, and most of them are townies. Now don't forget we've got the plot. So wherever, anytime a townie is killed and at least 1 location containing a vampire, spawn 1 vampire, and we get 2 more vampires that come out on the board. And that's really how you're going to be playing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the board game. I hope that provides you guys with enough flavor so you can see how to play. And stay tuned for our review of the game. All right, so we played the game a few times. We've had some success. We've had some challenges. So Julie, what do you want to tell us about the game overall, your experience with the game?
Well, it made me want to go watch Buffy again, so I do admit I fired up Netflix. It did not hold up very well, at least the first season.
No, I will agree with you. The characters are great, but some of it, oof, yeah, it has not aged well, unfortunately.
So that was fun. It was fun rediscovering Angel and Buffy and the team. I enjoyed the the Monsters of the Week. That was fun. We got stuck with a big bad for a little while. That was kind of a thorn in our side, but that's part of the fun. You really do have to, again, it is cooperative. You have to work together in order to be able to have some sort of success. But I think the part that I enjoyed the most was the fact that it, reminiscent of Buffy and the characters.
No, I gotta say, I played the game actually one time without her, and I have to say, love the game, but one drawback I would say is you really got to pick your characters well. When we were playing with the character of Spike, his special ability just wrecks. And gotta say, if you're playing the game, pick Spike. Like the ability to just clean out lots of baddies, especially depending on how things happen. This was in a larger player game. We were playing at about 5 players, so we had a lot more event cards during the setup, and Spike really let us get control of the board. And I would say the game's hard. We did lose. The Apocalypse track filled up, and you really have to manage your objectives. You gotta protect the townies, you gotta heal some wounds, and you gotta take out those monsters of the week as soon as possible. So that's very challenging.
You got to be able to let some townies die, though. I think the first time we played it, I just didn't want any townies to die, and it's going to happen.
No, it's definitely going to happen, but if it takes too long, especially as the master's plots come into play, and the fact that you can't clear those plots until you're fighting the big bad himself, the game gets harder and harder as it goes along. So you want to try to position yourself so that you're able to knock out those monsters of the week as fast as possible. That being said, though, you might want to leave clue tokens on the board for a longer time. It's strategies and stuff that we never really tried. I think one of that time that we lost the game, one of the mistakes we made was getting those clue tokens right away, because we set up some of those ongoing effects that really made our life difficult.
Yep, they sure did.
So how would you rate the game?
I think the first time we played it, I would have said 7. The second time around, I would say probably an 8. I did enjoy playing it. It was a little difficult, but as you said, but it was fun.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.5. It didn't quite get to an 8 for me, and that's not because of the cooperative elements. For a fun cooperative game that you can play with people that love Buffy, this is a great intro game to the hobby, especially for some of your more geeky friends that haven't necessarily jumped into the hobby gaming and the board gaming aspect of our subcultures out there. But the reason why I'm giving it 7.5 is I don't think that there was enough flavor. A lot of the items were a little bit too generic, and I didn't really enjoy the event checks. I don't know about you, but I would have rather had a different mechanic, maybe rolling a dice, even if the chances were the same. I didn't like picking.
Then it would be up to chance, and you wouldn't like it.
Well, the event checks are still up to chance, but I would maybe just like something a little different than pulling the event card to do a check.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I really didn't.
Like I said, it's not a big negative for me. It's just something that I haven't enjoyed. I know it's a newer type mechanic in games. We saw it as well in Runebound, but sometimes I like my classic die rolls. There's just something fun about it. I mean, we just reviewed Thanos Rising, and we had a lot of fun rolling dice in that. So,
despite the fact that you really weren't rolling very well.
No, I really was not rolling very well. And combos, man, combos. Same thing in this game. Those events, keep them in mind. Don't forget that text at the bottom of the event. And if you're trying to get better at the game, read the rule book. There are some easier variants that you can play as you get a feel for it. And I'd say this is not a very difficult cooperative game, but for anyone that's new to this, it can be fairly challenging. So, with that being said, you can take a look somewhere up here. It'll be right now or in a few seconds. You will see links to our other videos. You will also see links to our social media down below. And if you have any more questions about the video, you can just take a look at the video description. We've got everything you need right there. So, like we always say here at Dice and Dragons, grab your drink, grab your best friend, and keep playing games. Sure, I shouldn't have played Spike.
I'm still trying to figure out why you gave me a vampire game for Valentine's Day. Am I supposed to read into that?
Maybe you should. I only come out at night.
Uh-oh.